Call the meeting to order. Our first item is our Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
The mission of Marshall Public Schools is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any additions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Tiger Spotlight.
I want to recognize Jesus Reyes this evening. Jesus wasn't able to be with us at the meeting today, but he was recently recognized as Assistant Coach of the Year in Section 2AA Soccer. He has coached for 5 years at Marshall Public Schools. He's currently the assistant coach for the varsity team and head coach of the JV team. Jesus is also one of our parent-student connectors. I want to say congratulations to Jesus. It's really an honor that he chooses to be a Marshall Tiger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty excited for him, and he's very humble. He won't claim anything that he did to earn that. And he says all the kids, which it certainly is our kids, but Jesus does a great job with them too.
Thank you. Moving on to our public forum. Now is the time. If anybody's in the public like to approach the board, now is your time.
Not you three though.
Moving on to our presentations, pathways.
This is you three.
Welcome.
So really, we're just going to introduce, you know, the assistant principal, Ms. Reynolds.
Yes, hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have Mr. Joseph Schmidt. He is our ag teacher / math teacher. And Laura Stiles is our FACS teacher. And Erica Hess is our PAYS lab instructor. So we're going to sit down while they give their presentation.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Be sure you talk into the microphone because it's going to be televised. Thank you.
Go to the first slide, please. Again, my name is Joseph Schmidt. I'm the 7th grade ag teacher, and our course is 1 quarter long, so we're trying to fit all these skills into just 1 quarter. So what is the goal of our course in that short amount of time? We're trying to develop students' knowledge of topics related to agriculture. Our interest survey way back in the first week of school showed that students lacked a lot of knowledge about agriculture. They were coming into class almost complete blank slates. And so I asked them, tell me 3 things that you think involve agriculture. And the answer was farming and then 2 blanks. So a real, not bringing a lot of prior knowledge. So it was an easy thing to start because anything was new knowledge, anything was teachable. So we looked at fostering students' interest in agriculture and related fields. That's our second goal. And survey showed that students viewed agriculture, again, as just farming. So I asked them, is fishing part of agriculture? And they said, no, that's fishing. But, of course, fishing and taking care of our wildlife is part of agriculture. And then our last thing, creating opportunities for students to learn life skills related to agriculture. Students need time to build both the mental and practical skills. The mental would be like the knowledge of agriculture, and then the practical skills would be how to actually do it. So that covers many different skills we can get into. So if you can go to the next slide, we'll take a look at a few of them. So how are we accomplishing these goals? The class is framed as resource management. So each week we examine a new topic and relate it back to this idea. So standards for ag don't start until the last years of high school. So I sort of looked at those standards and then sort of dialed them back. So where the high school standard might say something like, understand the nitrogen fixation cycle. Well, that's probably a little steep for people that don't understand that plants need nitrogen. So we would turn that all the way back to what goes into fertilizer. How does fertilizer help plants? And that gets into nitrogen as one of our main components. And then we need to manage that amount of nitrogen. Like I talked to the students, we can't just add fertilizer and add fertilizer and add fertilizer and expect the plants to keep taking that in. Eventually, we're going to have too much. So just the right amount of management, just the right amount of fertilizers, how we're managing that. And then we looked at how farming manages resources, what are resources used in our daily lives. That's one we touched on a bunch. So the last thing we did was we made fabric, which you'll see on the next slide, but we're not going to go there yet. We made fabric. So I gave students looms. It's a simple loom. It just has like teeth on the top and bottom, and they wrap it with yarn, and then they physically practice making fabric. And I was like, so think about your shirt. You know, a shirt doesn't just grow on a tree. It has to come from somewhere. So we found out just how difficult it is to make, you know, a piece of fabric only a few inches by a few inches. And then what goes into that, both the energy to do it and the natural resources that we use from the planet to achieve that. So students receive direct instruction on the topic, usually less than half an hour, probably about 20 minutes of direct instruction on the topic to build that mental awareness and mental, you know, familiarity with an agriculture topic. And then students practice a functional skill, which is the things you see in those pictures. So on the left-hand side, we're transplanting plants. We're taking plants from our little bitty planters, and then we're moving up to sort of our medium-sized planters. And then the two photos on the right there are our soil study. So we're figuring out what goes into soil. So we have sand, we have peat moss, and we have topsoil. And they made these sort of dirt castles. And then we turned it over and put the red convertible of science on top, and then poured water on it to see how long the soil structure held together. And the students figured out that if they have, in this case, a plant stand-in, which was jute, which is an itchy rope product, if that rope was in there, it held the dirt castle together. So instead of just telling students that the plants are incredibly important to our soil column, they saw it in action. Next slide. And then the feedback on the process, there in the upper right-hand corner, you can see them making the looms. Students are consistently engaged in the learning, so selling tickets. So if you've ever seen the Teach Like a Pirate presentations, one of the things the presenter talks about is if your class was like a movie, could you sell tickets for students wanting to actually buy to attend? And so far, ag has been easy to sell tickets to because they have no idea what they're going to do week to week. Even if I tell them next week we're planting plants, they're like, what does that mean? So far, it's been easy to sell tickets to the class. Student comments are in class are mostly positive. Some of the plants died, so that was a learning environment, a learning moment for me too. Wow, we're growing them inside in a little greenhouse in the back of class, and for some reason, all of the radishes died. When we transplanted them, it killed them all, 100%. Don't know why. So the cucumbers survived, the lettuce survived, but so we had students that had some hurt feelings when their little pet radish didn't make it. But I asked them to think about it, and they said maybe the soil didn't have the right nutrients. So even in those failures, we can tie it back to the concepts we're learning in class. So they're mostly positive, except they didn't like their plants died. Parents' comments from conferences show that students are bringing home learning. They're like, show me their plants, show me their looms. So it's obvious that those kids are taking that interest home and telling the parents, you won't believe what I did in school today. Test scores and quality of work is good. So even if the students struggle, they sort of push through it. So for many students, the loom activity was really tough because it's the first time they've done something that's not video games or cell phone with their hands. And so to follow a consistent pattern and make a product and follow it through and not just get it halfway through and be like, well, this is boring. They, stuck with it and stuck with the task and finished it. I think we have only 5 of the 43 students are still working on their looms. So pretty good success on that. Now we're moving into animal science. So we're going to talk about bees. We're talking about pollinators. We're going to try to lasso a few things on Wednesday. We're going to go outside and try to lasso a giant stuffed animal. And then the end of the course, we'll see us talking about FFA and ways that students can continue this knowledge in the rest of their lives. So that's the ag course in a fairly condensed moment there. Do you have any questions or comments on it?
Are you enjoying it, Joe?
I am.
It's a totally different
ride,
from your
man.
training, right?
It is. My background is middle school math. That is my license.
Yeah.
So I was hired on as OFP to do the ag position, and it's been great. It's, math does not have a lot of labs. It has some activities, sometimes for students to move around the room, but we don't, play with dirt in math. We don't build castles in math. So being able to have those lab moments and interact with students on functional skills has been great.
You meet with colleagues at the high school, egg colleagues? At the high
Occasionally.
school to get some ideas from them or
Yes.
resources?
Yep,
Good.
occasionally.
Are there any opportunities for like field trips to a working farm or?
I have not pursued that yet, but maybe in the future courses, sure.
Want to see a pig farm, that would be your connection.
Yeah.
Man, pig farms, yeah. There's enough out here, we could probably find one close enough to get to there and get back.
So,
So one of the comments that was on one of our presentations was that natural manure has an odor to it, and it showed a manure spreader. And some of the kids in class were like, "What do you mean it has an odor?" It's like, okay, so we don't understand. We don't understand a lot about that process. So yeah, a field trip to, like my own daughter is 10, and when she was little, we went to a farm, and all she had seen was the pictures in storybooks where it shows a happy little cow getting milked by a happy little farmer. And then we went to a beef farm, and when we came around the corner to like 1,200 head of cattle in a farmyard, and they were scared, and it was feeding time, so they thought we had food, but we did not. So they were very interested in us, and that was a real learning experience for my daughter. So yeah, to bring students to an active farm and show them what what an actual pork process looks like would probably be very educational.
I'm just curious, how many kids or what percentage are actually on farms at home?
Not a lot.
When I grew up in a little town in central Illinois, and probably 80% of the kids were on farms at that, back in the 60s.
So I've asked the students in class to show of hands who has farming background, and it's maybe 1 or 2 per class. So it is, it's single digits of percent.
Yeah. The amazing thing, though, would be if you asked how many of your parents have ag-related jobs in this community, and I think the number from the chamber is like 60%. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad to see that this program is going on, and we're talking to our kids about that, because with where we live and what we do, that's the backbone of everything here in Southwest Minnesota. So
Yeah, I would
Great
guess
stuff.
it's high between CHS, RELCO, ADM.
I mean, even my job, and people don't think about that, but even my job, we're owned by a ag-related broadcast network. I mean, we're owned by the Linder Broadcasting Group, so even my job is technically got an ag background to it. So people don't even think about that sometimes. So I just think it's a great way to teach our students about our history and our tradition and what we're about out here in Southwest Minnesota.
Interesting.
Even just helping kids make that connection when you started, that ag is more than corn, soybeans, and cattle.
Yeah, very true. And then you could tie in math too, then they can understand why math is important. So many at that age says, why do we gotta learn this? This is silly. But you gotta use math with everything.
Yep.
Anyway, great
Thank you, Joe.
job.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Joel.
Thanks for all you do.
Great.
Erica, my former kindergarten teacher,
Yes.
good to have you here.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about PAYS. I know you were able to come and do a little stop in earlier in the year, so it's fun to be back and talking about it. PAYS stands for Practical Assessment Exploration System. Overall, it's practical in that it's using career areas that are in our everyday lives. It's I want to miss about that. Oh, yeah, to determine their interests and abilities really is what the program is all set up to do. So at the chart, if you could go to the next slide, please. Here are our 5 different component or career pathway areas: construction, industrial, computer technology, business marketing, processing, production, and consumer service. So there's 8 to 10 job units per career area. And then underneath that, then our income, in total, there's 264 different jobs that our students would have access and exposure to for entry-level positions. I don't know if you want me to kind of go through into each of them. I think because we're nearing the end of quarter one, and again, it is a quarter class, so it's exciting. Today, I was able to tell the students, look, we have 2 more times where you're in this career area before the end of the quarter. No, and I've been preparing them for this, but I think it's starting to really settle in. Like, we are nearing the end. Make the most of it. You have your cumulative record of all of the jobs you've done in each area. Let's set a goal. How many jobs do you want to complete before we're finished? If I look at the construction industrial area, they did have to go through all of the shot measurement jobs first, 1 through 6. They increase in difficulty. That way they for sure have a secure sense of how to measure before they're cutting and using our resources. They have to do a few jobs of the screws and nails as well, so that they are familiar with what a screw is and how to use the tools. And then they went right into their wood project, which is a small bookshelf. I should have brought it today to show you. We had a few students, well, there is some pictures coming up, that have already completed, and there's a whole slew that are just in their finishing touches to add the nails and things together. We had electrical projects as well going. They've rung the doorbell. That one, we've learned that there are different kinds of doorbells. You know, we're used to the traditional ding dong, and it's our kind of one. So the first time we all kind of thought, is it wrong? Did we wire it wrong or incorrectly? But they're just different styles of doorbells. So that one has given probably the most sense of accomplishment, more so than the lamp and the light bulb. I think because it's just a lot more steps, and it's from scratch. So they really feel, they learned to strip the wire, measure the wire, strip the wire, connect it to the doorbell, to the buzzer, all on the circuit board. So that's been fun to see. We unfortunately have not even touched yet on the metal projects, which is making a small little tea light candle holder. We just have not, how many times they can be in they're in each component career area once a week. So you rotate. So if on Monday I start with construction, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that way you don't get totally burnt out. We also know, if it's not your area of highest of interest, you probably would not like to come to school for 3 weeks in a row doing the same, I'm stuck in construction again. So the variety has been wonderful. It also helps anticipate, tomorrow is one of my favorite areas. It's been fun to see that vibe. Computer technology, I would say mailing technology has probably surprised me the most. Folding a business letter and putting it in an envelope so it looks professional, so the customer can open the letter, read the letter, has been difficult. So it's been fun that they feel a lot of sense of pride when they've finished it, because we have to correct it until they've used the jig to help them. And we bring it back to you. All those letters that you get at home from the school, someone has folded that letter and put it in that envelope for you professionally. It looks nice. The letters, straight. So they have a lot of sense of pride in finishing that job. Digital photography, that's been fun too. Some of the students have said, I really want to do this when I get older. So even though it's just a simple, start with a list of photos and take these photos, but then they're going to go on the computer, edit them, rotate them, do some basic things with it. It just at least gives them an opportunity to use something that's of high interest for themselves. Business and marketing. We got our cash register a little late because of back orders, and so the kids are pushing through the 10-key calculator jobs because that's the prerequisite to get to the cash register. So they're really having fun making change. All of the skills that they're doing in that area truly are being used if they were to go to work at Burger King anywhere in town, any entry-level position. They are using a lot of those skills. In consumer service, definitely a buzz. Our 8th graders haven't had the opportunity to have fax yet. So this is like I can't wait to make food. And then the kids that are right before lunch, and 8th grade lunch is at 12:44. So they're just like, this is the best class ever, right, to have before lunch. They're just eating it up. They love it. They love all the food measurement jobs they have to go through first so they can do teaspoons, tablespoons, quarter cups, all of those important skills before they can make something. Then there's a small cloth bag that they'll also work on. Housekeeping and custodial has been fabulous. Our window, I promise, is probably the cleanest window in all of the school. That's a coveted job. How can I wash the window? And because I let them go outside too. And also because then, it's both sides of the window to make it just as pretty. So it's fun. They pick up jobs. There's never a downtime. If there's any amount of moments left in class, 5-10 minutes, we have a list of other jobs. They're dusting, they're sweeping, they're mopping, they're cleaning the windows. We have a vacuum. I mean, the room is very clean because of the students are taking pride, tidying up their area and making sure that their area is nice and clean.
What grade's this?
8th grade only.
grade?
Yeah. So in the last.
My car outside your classroom, they can do my windows anytime they want.
Well, I have to tell you, Jeremy, I got nervous because on one of the sanding jobs, when they're sanding their bookshelf, I let them go outside. It was, those were the 80-degree days. It was just so beautiful. Well, our window's right there. And on the classroom, the door is also right by our thing. And so I can see them and they're just sitting out there sanding away. And then you walked by and I thought, oh no, is he going to tell me I have to come inside? And they go, no, because they came in like right after you left. And I thought, oh no, I'm not supposed to do that. But they're having a blast, and they're just sanding away on their projects. So it was fun to see. If you could change the slide, please. And then this is just a collage of some of the photos. He was up in the top corner, left corner there, he's holding the bookshelf. And then on the side are 3 holes on the top and bottom for 3 pencils that fit on, so it's a little pencil holder. Pancakes, that's been a popular job. Our friend in the bottom left corner, he was so proud the first time ever using the sewing machine. He was so proud. Can I take this paper home to show my mom? I'm like, absolutely. So I had to capture a picture of it as well. There's our two of our friends that were outside sanding away, making change. They're putting pipes together in different fittings. The data entry jobs, mailers are up in the top right corner. A friend in the middle is using a coping saw to cut out a small piece, and he's holding it up also because it was it was the most 2-inch perfect piece, and he was so proud. He sanded all the edges. I said, I have to take your picture. And he was so proud. So, and I said, and he had 2 of them, and so then I said, well, can I keep one for an exam? And he signed it. It was pretty fun. And then right in the middle is our very first light bulb that we had completed in the lab. And then one quick fun story. There's been lots and lots of different things, but after the pancake unit, that wasn't the next day, I don't remember how many days later after it was, and he came up to me, he says, I have to tell you something, Miss Hess. I made pancakes for my family for breakfast. This was on a school day, not even on a weekend. He was so proud. I said, how did this all come to be? Did you ask ahead of time? He said, yeah, I asked my mom the night before if I could make them. So that was really fun and they all want the Pays recipe. So I said I would share it though at the end because I didn't want someone to make it at home before we made it. But I thought we could put a little recipe book together of the Pays pancakes. And I think there's one more slide. The feedback has been positive. Really, the conference nights and the open house nights when I was able to just explain what the program was, because most people are like, what is this? And they don't know how to say, is it Pays? Is it, what? Not quite sure. And every single parent that came through was just truly like, I really wished I would have had this when I was younger. I really wish. I'm so thankful. And they're just really excited for their student, their child, to have this opportunity to kind of get their feet wet. And plus, we kind of bridge that gap. I'm like, and you're going to be registering for high school classes in March or somewhere around there. You'll already know what component and career area you want to take because you're going to pick your 1, 2, and 3 classes at the high school. And if you've never even had FACS and consumer service type experience, they would never have even chose to sign up for those classes. So they're really going to have an opportunity to get their feet wet a little bit in each one, like what technology classes, the woodworking, the wood shop, it's really exciting for the students. So do you have any questions?
Do they have an assessment at the end to see what
There
they
really
don't-
isn't. It's
was wondering.
self-assessment. Yeah,
Okay.
self-assessment. The students are always basing their interest level as they go through I'm never assessing them on if you are employable. We always look though as our daily points of workplace soft skills, you know, how you cooperate with your supervisor, your teacher, how do you cooperate with your coworkers? The tone of voice do you use appropriate conversation? All of the skills that workplaces are, they give us a list of 10. I think there were 12, but I picked 10. Do you stay on task? You know, are you going to work the whole time? Do you have a positive attitude? Because I'm not going to pay you and to come to work and just kind of roam around. So it's really applicable to school. I kind of tie it into work and to school. You know, when you go to class, make the most of your time, use it wisely. Kind of always just tying it together as much as we can.
I think this is great. This makes school fun.
Like, I just love that I don't have homework. No, and it's true. Eighth grader, you know, depending on your load of classes, it's a nice break from just our every day. It's hands-on. They come in, they get their job, they go to work, and I just run around and assist everyone. But
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you,
thank
Erica.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. I am the FACS teacher, or Family and Consumer Science teacher. So most of you probably know FACS as home ec, but it's changed a lot since then. We're not just all about foods and sewing. We do a lot more. So the 4 things that we cover in our quarter class with the 7th graders is we do foods, we do hand sewing, and then we talk about personal finance, and then lastly we talk about relationships. So with foods, they learn all about kitchen safety and sanitation and how to work in a group together and how to get their product to look like what mine looked like the day before. So they learn, you know, how to measure things, how to properly take stuff out of the oven. We made mini pizzas, and those were really fun because they got to practice their knife skills. They had to communicate with their team members, being like, what kind of toppings do you want? So just working together on that. And then lastly, they made cookies. And those were really fun because we had kind of a cookie competition. And I did not assist with any measuring this time. So this was our last lab. And it was interesting to see, like, oh, our cookie didn't turn out like how theirs did. Maybe we didn't add enough sugar. Or maybe we added too much. Or so it was interesting to see them analyze everything. And kind of figure out maybe what we can do better next time. For sewing, we do hand sewing because I think that is probably the most practical thing that they will use for sewing. Just, you know, if they can want to hem something or they want to fix a shirt that's ripped or put on a button. So we learned how to do different knots and then the running stitch, and they learned how to sew on a button. And then we made mini pillows at the end, so they were able to make a final product, and they were really excited about that. Currently, we are in our personal finance unit, so we go over what a checking account is, what a savings account is, what's a credit card, what even is credit, and learning all about that because it's super interesting. A lot of our students didn't even know what a checking account was, or like, I don't know if I have one. Where does my money go? Like when I get a job. So talking with them about all those different things and even practicing writing a check out because I told them, I was like, we don't use it a lot nowadays, but at least at some point in your life, you're going to have to write a check. So it's important to know how to do that and where it goes and how do you cash a check even because they had no idea what that meant. And then they got to balance their checkbook as well. So that was really cool for them to do. And we even, we're now doing our Monopoly money. So they each get a salary when they come to school of like $20. And certain things cost money. So if you forgot something in your locker, that costs $1. Or if you want to sit by your friend, that costs $5. If you want to, what was one of the other things? Oh, I got snacks and stuff for the class. So if you want to buy a snack. So that talks to them about budgeting and the importance of what should I spend my money on? What should I save it on? You know, maybe if I shouldn't be talking so much in class because I only have $5 left when 2 days ago I started with 20. So they're really excited about that. And then lastly, relationships. We cover more family relationships and friendships and just what it is to be a caring person and to communicate with one another and what it is to be a friend, because I know as a middle schooler and as a 13-year-old, you're going through a lot of different changes, and how to be a supportive friend is super important, and being able to discuss and talk with them about that will be very interesting, and I'm excited to see how it goes. If you want to go to the next slide. So just some feedback on the process. A lot of my students say that this is the best class that they have, because it is so hands-on, and because we get to eat in my class, we get to make little pillows, we get to talk about lots of different things that maybe they don't get to talk about with their other teachers. And then one of the emails from a parent that my student really enjoyed my class, and she started cooking at home more and being more active and helping with supper at home, and she wants her parents to make pillows with her and she can show them how to do that. And that always warms my heart, because it's so fun to see them take that home and try it at home. And when they come to class, oh, I made the mini pizzas last night for my parents, or we're doing the cookies this weekend, or I showed them how to sew on a button. My parents completely forgot how to do that. So being able to talk with them about that and see that, yeah, they're learning and listening and taking that home and then showing that at home as well. It's awesome. I think that was the last slide. Maybe? Oh, okay, those two were switched. Yeah, just, so we spent about 2 weeks on each of our units, kind of talked about all of that with foods, hand sewing, personal finance, and relationships. There's a few pictures up there. We did pancakes, and they learned how to garnish their pancakes. So kind of what restaurants would do, and learning about how to plate an item and how to make it look fancy. So we did whipped cream, powdered sugar, Nutella, and syrup, and they got to decide how they wanted to make it look. And it was interesting to get them to see, to be creative and want to make their pancake look the best that it could be. And then there was the practice check that we got to write on. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about class at all?
I just think all three classes are fantastic, but besides that, I can tell that all three of you are tied in to your students, which means you're great teachers. And I want to thank you for that, because you make school enjoyable for the kids. And that way they learn and they enjoy coming to school. So thank you
Kids
for doing
learn by
that.
doing.
Thank you very much for all that
All
you
of you
do.
are doing hands-on stuff. Each of you, is it a quarter that you have your kids? And then they rotate among you? So your
Different
group
grade
may go
levels.
to Joe next time, or?
Seventh graders have the FACS and the egg class. Eighth graders have PAYS and Spanish class.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys
Thank
very
you.
much. This
Thank
is
you very
great.
much for being pioneers. Way to go.
Thank you.
Thanks for your leadership, Paula, helping put that together. Yep. That was a big change. Big change with regard to the whole culture, too. Thank you.
Moved on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Financials, motion to approve financials. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Open for discussion.
Just a couple of things to point out. Food service seems a little high. That is our September billing. And then also at the beginning of the year, we do a deposit, which is then adjusted out at the end of the year. And then building construction, that's mostly some of our IEQ
Down here,
project,
we
which
in
falls
10?
under construction. There's a little bit of the CTI in there.
Any questions?
Down here.
Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
Okay.
It is approved. Anything else on financials?
Just pointing out, kind of like I do each month, that second page points out the percentages that we've gotten so far this month. It's pretty early, but revenue is up a little bit more than last year. And our general fund is right in line with previous years.
Very good. Any questions? Board forum, board members, anybody like to bring up anything?
I had a chance to present to the CEO class last week and just wanted to share what a wonderful group it was. We talked about marketing and we're trying to help them launch their businesses that they're their class business that they're working on. So we talked about marketing and slogans and logos, and what a great just group of kids. They were so engaged. They asked so many questions. They all dressed professionally. The thing that really stuck out to me, and I actually said this to Shanda afterwards, every single one of those students came up and shook my hand and looked me directly in the eye the entire time. That was a skill that my dad taught me when I was young.
Absolutely.
And it was just a wonderful experience. So I just thought I'd share that because what a terrific group of students
How many
they are.
students are enrolled in that class?
About 17, I think. Is that right?
Cool.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of them are Marshall students, and it was just really a cool experience. So.
Did you tell them how important marketing on the radio is?
Well, I kind of took a more generic approach, but yes.
Very good. Anybody else? Moving on, administrators report.
All right, number of things to share with you guys tonight. My report is where I'll start. Skip plans are something we'll go through here in a few minutes. Just wanted to share a little update. The skip plans look a lot different this year. They were redesigned to better align to the new strategic plan. I really feel we've put some strong plans together that address the needs that we identified for each site. These are going to engage the work that we do as we go throughout the year. The skip plans, they determine the ultimate measure of progress at the end of the year. That's how we're going to measure that. We also have in the new plans, operational plans and some action cards. The operational plans are like a roadmap to get through the work that we're doing by site. And the action cards are very specific steps that each site is taking. So when you look through those skip plans, you'll see that they look different than they have in the past, including those extra pieces. I'm excited to move forward with those. I also want to share the Pride and the Tiger is hosting their annual Hall of Honor banquet. It was kind of disrupted with COVID for a few years, but it's back this fall. October 29th is the date for that. It was to be hosted at the Marshall Golf Club. This year, 4 individuals will be inducted in the Hall of Honor. It's community members Mike Fox and Jennifer Johnson, MHS alumni Gary St. Aubin, and past staff Dennis or Red Schroeder will be inducted to the Hall of Honor. So excited for that event and encourage people to attend. Early childhood, Tiffany shares that October, they're ending the month with a fun week of book walks where students dress up as their favorite storybook characters and they parade around the school dressed as their favorite storybook characters. That's always a fun event that they do. She also shares that the week of October 10th through 14th was Fire Safety Week. You know, the communities had a number of different things going on with the fire department as well. As part of Fire Safety Week, fire department visited early childhood classes. They talked about safety. They dressed in their gear. And the students got to see a fire truck. They also passed out fire hats for the kids, so the kids really had a lot of fun with that during Fire Safety Week. Parkside, Darcy shares significant change in the skip plan and the instructional practices is around the implementation of really great reading. Staff is also spending grade level PLC time learning more about the science of reading in an effort to improve the percent of students reading at grade level. The Really Great Reading program provides all students with consistent, systematic, and explicit instruction in phonics. All teachers are also dedicating at least 20 minutes per day to phonics instruction within their classrooms and using scripts to ensure the instruction is explicit. So they're doing a lot of work around that at Parkside this year. Darcy's really done a nice job leading that charge. She also shares that the SKIP goals this year, they're using data meetings again, tracking student progress, identifying students who need additional time and or support to plan interventions. During those data meetings, students are identified as either Tier 1, saying they're meeting or exceeding expectations, Tier 2, they're approaching standards, or Tier 3, they're below standards. And that's how they're grouping to help identify how they're meeting those needs individually in classrooms. Southview, Pete shares that on September 20th, they had their first day of orchestra for 4th grade students. Mr. Wes Myers is again doing that practice with the students over at Southview. That runs from 3:15 until 3:45 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Really excited to have that running again at Southview this year. He also shares that on September 27th, they did some bus safety training with the students. So Southwest coaches brought a couple buses over. They talked through proper evacuation procedures and had some good training with the kids there. And the Southwest coaches was a good partner with that. And he shares that on October 3rd, they had their very first monthly newscast. So this was really fun. I don't know if board members, you had a chance to view that. But they have a green screen room that's part of the setup at Southview. And students prepared with, Tammy Dulas was a teacher, helped prepare this newscast for the students, talk through what's going on at Southview. They did some interviews of Mr. Thor, of the custodian, Mr. Bloomy, and then of some teachers, and just talked about different things taking place at school. So they really did a nice job with that. There's a link to the full episode if you haven't seen it. It's in Pete's board report. I encourage you to click on that and just watch the video. It was cute. That will be a monthly thing they're going to do. Middle school, Paula shares that all new students, including all new students plus fifth graders and seventh graders, were screened for vision and hearing. We want to thank the Lions Eye Club. They are continuing to partner with us to help with the vision screening, and some volunteers that help with hearing testing as well. She also shares that student council had some fun things over homecoming week. They went in the fax room and they baked cookies, brownies, and cupcakes and had a little bake sale after school during homecoming Friday. The profits will be used for future student council events. So that was a fun activity, and it's kind of connects with that fax presentation we just had. High school, Brian shares, he's got some reports in there looking at the grades, the 3-week grading. Does a nice job checking that information. Really that 3-week check, it's a checkup or grade check to see how students are doing. The 3-week data this last time around is significantly higher than what we've experienced last year. It's a measure we use to look at the different chapters in the SCIP plan, as well as informing teachers and students about performance in school. So some good data in there as we're tracking for this year. We feel like we're back on track this year at the high school. We do attribute some of that work to the bar work that's taking place this year as well at the high school. Brian also talks in his report about homecoming week. That's a big, busy week at the high school. We had a lot of things taking place that week. One thing was the mock crash that happened on that Tuesday, the Career Expo on Wednesday, and a variety of events on Friday, including a Taher hosted a grill out for all of the students. We had the Coronation Pep Fest in the afternoon. That went really well, so all of our students could be part of that. And the homecoming dance after the football game on Friday. They said they had almost 600 students at the dance that night, so it was very well attended and it was a good event. The Sophomore Career Expo is one of the events he calls out specifically from that week. That's really a great event for our kids too. It aligns with the CTE work and the careers pathways work that we're doing across the district. But that was October 25th on the campus of SMSU. It's a regional event sponsored by the Service Cooperative. They hosted in Marshall and in Worthington. The Marshall event had 75 exhibitors, and they all had a variety of hands-on things. So kids get to go up, they get to talk to people, they get to touch and feel, and hands-on learning about different career opportunities and what have you in the area. So it's a really nice event. We had over 1,400 students attend the Marshall event. So obviously not just the Marshall students, regionally, it's a well-attended event, and it's a really, really nice event, very well done for our students. Brian also shares in his report, if you've been by the high school, you see some changes in landscaping. Travis Christensen's landscaping class is helping reconstruct the front entrance to the high school. They've torn out all those original bushes and trees. They were becoming overgrown and needed to be replaced. So that's getting replaced here this fall. We'll get some new plantings in there. And then there's another set of landscaping a little bit farther out that will happen next spring. And then in those little islands at the end of the parking lots, we've torn out the wood chips that were it was a mess. Some rocks and such going in there. It's looking cleaned up, and it's been a good project for that landscaping class to get done. Maytech, Amanda shares that students enjoyed festivities for homecoming as well. Showed spirit with some spirit days that week. Friday they had a fun day at Maytech on Friday of homecoming. Student council held the day where they ran a Wednesday early out schedule. So at 2:20 when Wednesday schedule dismisses, then they had the kids stay and they did some games and activities in the end of the day at Maytech. They had music playing, they had ladder golf, Connect 4 basketball, ring toss, coloring, and for students that were interested, they did hair, nails, and makeup as part of their homecoming celebration at Maytech. So they had a really fun afternoon. Teaching and learning, Beth shares we hosted our first annual, we're going to call it our first annual, substitute seminar is what we called it. It was on September 23rd. We invited certified and non-certified substitutes, kind of across the board. Anyone who's interested in subbing in the district, we just held a training time for them. Had a variety of different presentations from special ed and from EL and from technology and from the business office talking about different things with that, just to answer questions and kind of help people become more comfortable if they're looking at subbing. We had a nice turnout for that event, and something we would plan on continuing to do even throughout the year as we get more people signing up to sub or more people with that interest. Also, Beth calls out on September 20th, we partnered with the City of Marshall's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission and hosted the Welcome Week activity that was held at Justice Park that night. The event was focused on bringing people of all backgrounds together to build connections and just affirm that importance of welcoming and inclusive places. We had a really good turnout that night. We had over 300 people attend that night. They ran out of food, they ran out of the t-shirts, what have you, but it was really a nice event, very well attended. It was warm that day, but it was a nice night to be out in the park, and good turnout, really good feedback from that event. So that's going to become an annual event as well. Special ed, Jackie called out some fun things taking place with some special ed classes, specific at the middle school. There are some classes, the same group that's doing the kindness closet, they're doing a recipes and crafts project as well. So the students are doing some make-it-yourself crafts, including like a fall snack Chex Mix that they make, and then they have what they call the coffee cart. So the staff in the building can pre-order, and then the students deliver on this little cart a cup of coffee or a snack and this Chex Mix or these little craft projects that they built. For many of the students, it's the first time creating a craft or following a recipe, making a food item. So good project for the kids. With support and guidance of the students through those different skills, it's promoting independence and kindness toward themselves and others. It's also providing just a lot of support and opportunities for the students that they might not otherwise have. It's been a really good project. The students, that same group of students, they've taken over direction of the Tiger's Den. So the Tiger's Den is a snack bar that students have access to at the middle school. It's Fridays at the end of the day they do it. There's popcorn and treats that students can purchase. So the group of special ed students is stocking that Tiger's Den, making sure the inventory is available. They're taking inventory, ordering materials online, sending professional emails to staff, reminding them of instructions for who's working that week, organizing food, beverage, sanitizing, all those different things that take place with running that. It's been a nice program. They're doing a really nice job with that this year. Really good work skills being embedded into the learning as part of all these projects that group is doing. I'm really excited about the work that we're connecting students, all of our students to, with regardless of ability level that students are part of at the middle school. Finally, in the coordinator of special projects, she shares that the fall NWA assessments are complete. The window closed on the 11th of October. Site assessment coordinators work to accommodate testing each building. We will also have NWA testing in December and again in the spring. We're using those NWA results to measure growth for the QComp goals and to target level proficiency, as well as both math and reading at all grade levels K through 12. Many interventions throughout the district are based off of NWA data, or at least as part of that data we look at. Finally, she shares that Project Success, the after-school program, begins tomorrow. We have room for approximately 100 students in there, and our registrations were still being processed when I got this, so I'm not sure the exact number registered, but numbers were looking good. We had staff signed up and students getting all enrolled to start. So that's what I've got. Dion.
Just an update on the solar panels. The racking and panels are complete at Parkside High School, Southview, and Middle School. So if you've driven by, you'll be able to see those up. CT Center, the racks are up, and in the next couple of days, the panels should all be completed. This Thursday, while school's out, Parkside and High School, they'll have to cut the power to get it connected, so they'll be working on that. Southview and Middle School, they don't have to cut the power to connect it, so they'll be working that in the next week. Deb was, from the Independent, was nice enough to reach out with some questions. So it must be an article coming out on the solar panels coming up once I get those responses back to her. So I'll work on that. We continue to work with the auditors. Again, just a reminder, we'll have a finance committee meeting on November 1st, and then a presentation of the full board on November 21st. Jeremy and I stopped out to the CTI property today. They're actually able to do some demoing out there prior to the state approval for the final plans. There's certain things we can do prior to that. So it's pretty exciting. Some walls are removed. It's starting to look like some action taken out there. So the middle school multi-purpose area, we've met a couple of times with the gymnastics coaches. Some equipment is set up. sounds like in a couple of weeks is when Community Services starts up their program with gymnastics, and I think it's 3 or 4 weeks when gymnastics actually starts. So it'll be exciting to get that started down there. We still have some cosmetic work to do, but nothing that should hold up the program. And then the middle school gym, just kind of a heads up, we did the HVAC LED lights down in the gym. We removed the acoustic panels because they were very old and brittle. We had to remove them anyway to redo the HVAC. We're finding out that the acoustics, we need to put some acoustic panels back up. And so we're getting quotes on those. It was part of the plan. We didn't know if we'd have to or not because there's an acoustic wall in that gym, but it definitely needs it. So we'll be looking at that.
I peeked in on that gymnastics room. That looks really not as big when everything's in there. You know what I
Right,
mean? It
yeah.
looks small, but it's,
It's amazing how
Be
the
fun.
mats and the equipment sucks up the sound, the echoing though. So I don't know that we'll need acoustic panels. That'll be another
Yeah.
test there.
it looks good. I'm excited about that. Thank you. Discussion items, first review of policies 419 through 425 and 427. Anybody have any comments or questions on those policies?
Really were no significant changes in any of these policies tonight.
This will be our second reading of policies 411 through 415 and 417. Pretty self-explanatory. Moving on to our action items. Our first action item is approval to hold a special meeting on Monday, November 14th to canvass a special election. Motion to approve this meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
This would just be a meeting specifically to canvass those results. It'd be the only agenda item for both the operating referendum and the school board election that evening.
5:30, no problem. We'll-
4 o'clock. Tonight says 5:30.
Okay,
4 o'clock on the 17th?
4 o'clock on the 14th.
14th.
Oh, on the 14th, 4 o'clock. Oh, yeah.
Very good. We'll call for a vote. It is approved. Approval of site continuous improvement plans for 2022 through 2023. Motion to approve.
Second?
Any discussion?
So we talked at the admin meeting we had last week about how to present the new skip plans to the board members and explain them. I gave them a homework assignment and they gave me a little bit of a run for my money. I told them that if Deb were here and we were doing newspaper headlines in the skips, they had to give me what the headlines were going to be. So I got some fun ones and I will not repeat them because they had sound effects and stuff in their headlines. I told them that it's in writing, we can't have sound effects, and I'm not doing sound effects at the board meeting. But I will share the overviews of kind of what they wanted to highlight of the work in the plan. So their highlights, what I asked them to look at is what's the most important things, the most exciting things you have in your skip plans this year. And I know you guys have had a chance to review them as well, but just want to share from each site what they were really excited about, be it the goal or it be some action steps that they were taking this year within their plan. Early childhood is really excited about their work. They are starting to implement or starting to explore the science of reading. Of course, Tiffany was the one that had the choo-choo sound effects and such that goes with hers. But they're really excited about that work. And they have some additional social emotional learning goals directed for student success at early childhood she's excited about. Parkside, Darcy also calls out the reading work. Like I mentioned earlier, that's a lot of work taking place with that one. So she's looking forward to that. And then she mentioned social emotional as well. They have some very specific social emotional goals and some supports they're building for kids at that location. Southview, Pete mentioned the student-led newscast. That's part of the communication goal to try and increase that level of school-home communication, which was called out in our strategic plan for this year. So they're really excited about that program. You saw that earlier in his board report as well. And then he mentions the individual growth and progress monitoring for both math and reading. They've done a lot of work, I'd say, at Southview, or looking at a lot of work this year specifically around math, but also building that reading work that's happening at Parkside. So some good things happening there. Middle school calls out she says, middle school students strive to gain exceptional growth in NWA math and reading was her first headline. And the second step program, just boosting that mental health awareness, how important that is at the middle school they're working on there. And we have the new SEL teacher that's helping support that work at the middle school this year. High school, his first headline was MHS students strive to outpace national testing norms by 20% and set student achievement goal of 90% of students passing all their classes. So high schools measuring that growth, and really it helps us measure our students graduating on time. It ties back to the world's best workforce as well. But that percentage of students passing their classes, that means that so many other things are taking place with that. So I think that's a good goal they're excited about. Maytech, she calls out the focus on advisory supports within SEL and MTSS, so building those individual supports. And then she's excited about just calling out some of the action steps we're taking in her operational plan. Her headline was Walls and Doors coming soon. Maytech considers new site options. So not a goal based on reading math, but really a piece that they know is so important to make that happen and fits in with the work we're doing. So that's how we chose to share the updates and the skip plans with you guys tonight.
Any questions? If not, please vote. Is approved. Next action item is application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation. Do I have a motion? You need a second. I'll second. It's open for discussion.
This is an application to offset some student activity fees through the high school league, annual thing that we do.
Very good. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call for a vote. They're not raising rates this year, are they?
Not that I'm aware of.
It is approved. Thank you, board members. Meeting is adjourned.